So he said, looking into the I Ching, he said it brings forth uncommon sense. And I'm just going to say this to that if you look at common sense and the collective consciousness, and we all take a moment, and you, Nancy, and I, and our audience go to the moon, and we just sit in the hill of the moon and look down. And my question poses, where has common sense led us to? This so righteous world that everyone knows what's right, and we should do it this way, and we should do it that way, has led us to, let me not be negative here, but so basically we're destroying our planet. We destroy ourselves. So common sense, there's a huge problem with common sense. And the problem with it essentially mirrors into every single one of us, because we create the collective, and the collective creates each one of us. So if I'm taking the collective and I go into Facebook, if I'm trying to understand what is right and what is wrong, and I go to Facebook and Instagram and I go and ask 100 people one way or another, they're going to tell me what people think is right from their own lenses, which is basically very, very narrow. It's very, very narrow. And it's loaded with judgment, and it's loaded, basically, let me say this, it's preloaded. I have a little hard time when I hear the word people are running a program, we're all programmed.
Hey, Ray, welcome to the Awaken Heart podcast.
Hi, Nancy. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
It's so cool that you're here, and you're coming from Greece right now. And I had mentioned before we hit record, that was one of my most fabulous trips I ever took in my life. Greece has a really special place in my heart, and you're in a beautiful area where you were blessed with a home where you said that wasn't available. There's only one of two homes, didn't you say, that is on the particular part of Greece that you're in?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
we're located right in the ancient temple of
Hippocrates. Yes. So a blend of nature and history of where you're at. Do you feel some of the energies from the ancient temples, or in where you live? Do you feel a lot of that old Greece? What were they? They weren't the. What was the, because it was the Greeks and the Romans. Do you feel any of that energy from back when it was like in its whole heyday?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. This is ancient Greece before the Romans came along. Of course, they left. Greece remains Greece, but the classical period of Greece, 5th century before Christ, you have all these temples that are built in really important geographical locations. The energy here is palpable. In this specific area of Epidavros, where we live and have now our home, was the first hospital and first retreat center ever built. Even the idea of a retreat center. Hippocrates, the doctor that changed Western medicine, even till today, doctors have to take the Hippocratic Oath in order to get their license. The Hippocratic Oath was written here in this temple. And their basic idea, and what you have in this ancient site, is a huge theater, which is intact, takes 16,000 people. We were actually there Saturday and watched the play. And it is amazing to watch these plays that were written 5 centuries BC, played here, and watch these original plays is just absolutely breathtaking. The whole idea here of the hospital was that Hippocrates said, if you're in this ease, you need to heal your body, your mind, and your soul. You can't just address one thing. You can't just address the body alone, because we are holistic. We're a whole being. If our soul is not feeling good, if our heart is not happy, any kind of disease that our heart has will eventually show up in the body. So what you have in this specific site is this theater itself, the hospital part, gymnasium, and a meditation hall. So you'd go to the theater to cultivate your mind. You'll go to the meditation hall to cultivate your soul, and you will go also to the gymnasium to cultivate your body. And
wow, that's amazing.
Healing all these.
That's amazing, and that was 5 centuries ago, or 5 centuries ago, thousands of years ago. Wow. And it seems like a lot of us were more in touch with that kind of
Yeah.
Think in more in touch with earth, just like the Native Americans, shamanistic practices. Jesus Christ's teachings were more relegated to like healing, like, God is within. And it's just, and then it was taken out of context for power and control. And we lost a lot of that. And a lot of people are coming back to this connection with themselves and earth and healing and all these energies that are around us. We're seeing a blend of ancient tools being brought into the modern world, which I think is very necessary, since it seems like we're getting so lost with, the phone's taken us so far as modern technology and everything, but we've lost a lot of what we are here as spirit and what we are here as beings and our connection to, Mother Earth. And that's what shamanism is rooted in. And well, let's take us back. Let's go to the beginning. Can you take us through your journey from being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer to traveling across Mexico and Peru in search of shamans and healers?
I will be more than happy to. This is 20 years later now that we're talking, and I'm cancer-free. And I'm a little taller, I'm much happier, and very much alive. I was diagnosed in 2003 with stage 4 cancer and was given 3 months to live. And of course, when I got that was say one word would be overwhelming. When the mind hears that, there's a lot of things that happen. I wanted to say that it was a process of me realizing that I had not fulfilled, it wasn't my potential. I was not doing what I was meant to do. Actually, at the time, I was a very successful photographer in advertisement and in fashion. My claim to fame is both covers and ads for all the bigger companies in the world. But what I realized through this successful career, my soul was not happy. I worked 90-hour weeks, and my life was work. So when I was diagnosed, I realized that I needed to pause what I was doing, and came back to some books in my head. These books that I had read when I was 16, 17 years old by this author called Carlos Castaneda. I think Carlos Castaneda is a little forgotten, but he's this amazing anthropologist from UCLA who, in 1968, wrote his dissertation on medicinal plants. And in order to write his dissertation, he traveled to Mexico to talk to plant medicine shaman. And he got a lot more than he bargained for. He got a lot more than he was looking for. He wrote 16 books till the end of his life by being an apprentice of Don Juan Matus, the shaman that he met. So all his books are around Don Juan Matus. So when these books came in my hand when I was 16 till I was like 20 something, it really sparked the shaman within, and I really felt that that's what I wanted to do, to understand the greater nature of what life is. And I was actually wording it back at the time. It's like, what's behind the scaffolding? What's in the unseen world? It's like, how can I get to know more of life besides society, besides relationships, besides civilization? It's like, what's the nature of what we are and who we are? But by 20, I got my first camera on my first motorcycle, and the nature of the material world took over. And like I mentioned before, I had one successful career in photography till I was 38, until I was diagnosed. So, but when I was diagnosed, I realized it's like I didn't follow the path that I had in mind when I was young, when I was 16, 17, 18, that I felt that my heart's calling was to be a shaman. My heart's calling was to understand more the nature of life itself, to bigger picture. So I ventured off, and I'm going to say first that I went to the States, left Greece, went to the States, and I was very lucky and blessed to be invited into a study in the National Institute of Health in Washington, D.C. So in that process, I did one surgery, and I gave up my right kidney. And right after that, what the doctors were talking about is that they were saying that there was a lot more stuff and that I was still not going to survive. In my question, what can we do? What can I do? Their answer was, you should take care of your affairs. So with that, I left. I traveled through Mexico. I had just did my surgery. A few months later, I traveled down through Mexico. I met a lot of shamans and healers. But then I continued and I traveled to Peru, and I'm going to go there because it's there where I found, if you want, my tribe, I found my people, my healers. I met with the elder Quero by the name of Francisco Chura Flores, who is the elder, who is, if you want, the chief of the area in Cusco, Peru. And it's beautiful, isn't it? I was literally on my knees in front of Don Francisco, and I said, Don Francisco, please help me. I have cancer and dying. I have a 2-year-old son back at home that will be an orphan. I'm not here to raise him. He is now 22, and he's an awesome guy. Here, and I raised him. But when I said that, he looked down at me and he said, I can't heal you. I cannot heal you, but I can train you to become a shaman, and you could heal yourself. And in that moment, it was magical. In many ways, I believe that was the moment I was healed. And in many ways it is, because it was the first moment that anyone that I had talked to about my health turned it back to me. Said, here, you are responsible for your health. You are the one that's going to do this. And it was very, very important, because one of the things that happens to us when it comes to matters of health is that we give up our power, either to doctors or the hospitals or to others. And I am all for modern hospitals. I feel that this is one of the great things in the modern world, that we have the technology, that we have, I think, from x-rays to MRIs, all the great stuff, and a lot of knowledge. Yet, through my whole process of healing, I realized that one of the biggest things, even if it's a hospital that's going to help you or a shaman that's going to help you, the biggest thing is your willingness and participation. You're assuming the responsibility. And that's what happened there and then for me. I realized that, wait, I have power. So literally from my knees, I stood up. And that alone was exactly what was happening at a psychic level inside me. Like, it was the first time, this is 3 years into this ordeal with doctors, going to Johns Hopkins, going to NIH, other hospitals in Greece. It was the first time that I said, okay, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to do this, because while he said, I can't save you, he also said, I can train you to be a shaman and you can save yourself. And in that, he gave me back my power. Mm-hmm. And I could talk about this forever. I'll talk a little bit about it by saying this really, really important thing, which is in the part of it. And it is a part of our 9-month training, if it's not the most important thing, the 9-month training. And I'll add another story with another shaman that I worked there in Peru. The moment I changed my posture from being on my knees, crying and begging outside for help, to standing up and saying, well, I'm going to do my best, everything changed in my endocrine system. Whole endocrine system changed. My whole hormonal balances changed. Everything started to change there. And that's the part of who we are in our bodies. The endocrine system, 7 main glands, referred to in yoga as 7 chakras, are what really balance out all the chemistry of our body. And when we're talking about cancer or any sort of disease, we're talking about chemistry, right? It's in the body and it's moving around in chemistry. With the liquids of the hormones, if you want to, the fire, the electricity that is in the body. In that laboratory, everything boils and happens. Now, a posture of I'm on my knees and I believe inside me deeply that I will die will most likely lead me down that path. Right? Where a posture, no, you know what? I'm standing up. I'm rolling my sleeves. I will do the best of my ability. Changes everything in the chemistry of your body. So with the help of others, friends, family, loved ones, hospital, shaman, then you stand so much more of a chance to really turning things around. So between Don Francisco, who was one of my beloved friends, I want to say now, it's 20 years later, we've raised our kids together. I've watched his kids grow. He's watched my son grow. He's like a brother. He's like a father. He's like a comrade. I don't know what to say. We're very close all these years, and he's helped me, and I was lucky, and I was able to also help him in many ways. which I couldn't imagine at the time. But there was another moment that when I left from the mountain and went down into the jungle of Peru, I met with this wonderful person who I didn't think was wonderful when I first met him. This medicine man, ayahuasquero, by the name of Maestro Panduro. And there too, I was crying and I was on my knees. And I have to point this out to say this to you and to our audience, that when you're given a death sentence, you go through this breakdown upon breakdown. It's really hard for the brain to take it all in. So you get these moments where you just totally fall apart. So here I am. I've gone with an airplane, I've taken the longboat, we've hiked deep into the jungle, and I'm finding myself in front of someone that said, "Please help me, I'm dying, my child, this and that." And he looked down at me in a very different fashion than Don Francisco. And this is, again, a jungle man, very different. These are wild people. And he said to me, "I don't care about my own emotions. What makes you think I want to care about your emotions?" And that's what I said. I said, "Oh," and I was like totally taken aback. It's just like, and I'm thinking in my mind, it's like, I've come to the wrong place. I'm going to die here. No one is going to ever know where I am. They're going to probably throw me in a ditch. It's like, no one will know where I am in this deep jungle close to the borders of Bolivia. And I stood up. I wet my tears. I blew my nose. And I'm like, thinking what I'm going to say. It's like, you're not a healer. You have compassion. You're not, I'm getting, in all this, and I'm taking my breath to say something. He reaches his hand out, puts it on my shoulder, and says, "Good, my brother. I see you're ready to do the work now." So in both cases, and these two men I have in my heart, and I owe them my life, along with the wonderful surgeon in the National Institute of Health. They're all up there for me, and I'm grateful to them, grateful for their services in the world. So in the jungle, he was, it's okay to say, this guy was an ass to me to say. So I'm like, but one of the things that I discovered is that this was his way. This is the way of the jungle. He had hard love. That's what he knew, hard love. And the jungle is very much like that. It's unforgiving. It will give you, the jungle of Peru is the biggest pharmaceutical of the whole planet. It stores millions of medicines for everything. And at the same time, stores all the poisonous snakes, jaguars, and everything that can kill you in an instant. So hard love is the way to go. And I walked away from there after spending time with them and doing a lot of plant medicine, cleared. And the beautiful thing about doing the work with...
Were they just astounded that it was...
shamanic traditions is that
your tumors were, your scans were like better and better. Were they just astounded by it? Were you like a case study at that
every
point?
3 months post-surgery MRIs and CAT scans for the first 2 years. And then it went to every 6 months, and then it went to every year. So I would go back, and what we all witnessed, the doctors and myself, was that the other tumors were getting smaller or disappearing.
Gosh.
And the doctor said, "Whatever it is you're doing, keep on doing." And I thought inside my head, I'm not going to even begin to tell you, doctor, what I'm doing. I didn't think it was necessary to even go there. They were. Absolutely. Well, I was in the study in any case, and there was like 5 or 6 doctors that came along with my surgeon were looking.
Yeah.
They were absolutely astounded, because what they had said is, "Well, we'll do this, but still, it doesn't look promising at all," or they had to take care of your affairs. So again, though, what I want to stress out here is that I feel that if I had not done the surgery, I would not be alive. The tumor that was in my right kidney it was really clear that it was the first source, and that from there it had metastasized to my other kidney, to my lungs and my liver. So taking out that source and a 7-centimeter tumor, I feel it was like absolutely important. Absolutely. 7 centimeters, I would say, is 2.5 inches, if I remember correctly. Well, it was as big as the kidney itself. It was like the kidney itself, filling it up. So we did a radical nephrectomy. In other words, took the full kidney away with it. And I feel that gave my my body the chance to, not have that spread news, because tumors, now looking back so many years later, um, everything that exists likes existing. So a tumor that exists wants to exist, wants to grow, like we do, like the flowers do, like everything that exists wants to expand and grow and be. So it would be really hard at that point, I feel, and this is not absolute, but I feel that it would be hard to rattle that away, So that surgery, to do the surgery, I feel played a huge role by all means. And then that gave my body the opportunity to then working with the routes, with the plants, with the ceremonies, with fire ceremonies. It gave my whole body the chance to heal. And a big part of it, and as I mentioned earlier, leaving Greece as a fashion and advertisement photographer, from covers of Vogue to being in the jungle, there's really a big distance. What happened was that I began to discover spirituality, because I knew the words and the vocabulary of spirituality, but I had no clue what it meant or that it had anything to do with man. And it was there that I really began to understand the nature that we have, that in nature, we're spirit. Think about any people that you meet, right? It's just like, there's different spirits. It's not just personality. What's behind each person's personality is the essence of their spirit. That's what then becomes personality, right? So some people are highly spirited. Some people are very low spirited. Some people have energy that pops up shows up as humor and love. And essentially, I discovered spirituality as the essence of who we are. And that helped me tremendously. Because once I realized that there is a spirit within my body, then that spirit, I befriended that. I now was not just the body that had cancer. Now was a spirit that I was here and I wanted to remain here on the planet. And what I was receiving through my work with shamans is that, well, if you have a reason, if the spirit has a reason, or it's here to come to fulfill its dharma, the reason you've come to this lifetime, then you will live. Then you will live no matter what, because you're here to fulfill your dharma. So it really went all the way back to remembering as a 16-year-old that I was fascinated by the whole idea that there is more to it than what we see. There's so much energy, and like I said before, like behind the scaffoldings of the seeing world. So once I took a deep dive, first of all, to heal myself, I realized that through the process, I already began to fulfill my dharma, because I now know that I'm here to be a healer, that I'm here to help others come out of difficult situations, and like the one I was in. So again, here we are. I can say many things, and I'll pause a little bit because there's just so much that's happened in this last 20 years that I can, first of all, talk forever. Literally saved my life, changed my life, thus it saved it. I changed who I was. So I became a Ray that was not that Ray that was a fashion photographer that had cancer. I became a Ray that was becoming a healer that was free and liberated of any disease and healthy. Just say this and pause here to give you the space for a question. So you guide me towards what you might want to hear, or what our audience wants to hear more, is that 2 years after into my apprenticeship with Don Francisco, he said to me, you have to, I said, so what's next? Because I would travel there and say, what's next? And he would give me the next chapters of my training. So in the second year, he said, what's next? And now he said, you have to become a healer and a teacher. You have to teach everything that you've learned. You cannot be selfish. You can't keep it to yourself. If you want to remain cancer-free, you have to now bring this out to the world. And my big thing there was like, whoa, wait, how? I'm a white person from Greece, from America. How on earth, it seemed like a lot to me and impossible to me. And when I said how, he simply turned around and said to me, in English, teach it in English. And what he really meant is teach that in a way that it's understood in the Western world. Teach what we're giving you here from the Andes. And we're talking about the Q'ero Nation's people. These are the direct descendants of the Incas. So we go back more than 1,000 years or 10,000 years back. So the idea was that once I took on this new identity of being the teacher of this and healing, it took every cell of my body and then again my whole endocrine system to the next level. Changing identity of who I was. So now I wasn't the fashion photographer, or I wasn't an unable white person, but rather I was the person that was appointed to have a mission of serving. And that once again literally brought me to a next level of being and even more deep healed state of being. And so since then, we've opened the Jaguar Path School, and besides many trainings, workshops, retreats that we do, the main goal of this that I have built with the help of Don Francisco and his guidance and his support and his presence, he comes many times to the training. We've made this 9-month training that begins every year from November to June, the academic year. We meet 1 week in a month, and we basically dive into the tools. Each one of these weekend sessions, I dive into the tools, 18 tools that I felt that were most important ones that really played a kind of analytic role in changing my reality and in healing. And looking back, and I will pause, because I promised I'll pause. And looking back, the essence of training, the essence of what I went through is changing your mind and is changing your psychology. A lot of our students are even doctors, and a lot of them are therapists or social workers that work with people, and yoga teachers and body work people. But the essence is that when we work with these tools that are ancient tools, I was for the very first time able to deal with problems and pains and issues that I had that I couldn't before because I did not have these tools. Going through a very difficult, painful divorce while having a 1-year-old boy and a 2-year-old boy, right? Going through just all the difficulties, going through everything that I had in my life that I had not addressed. Because everything that happens to us that leaves us with a little bitterness or a little pain or a little anger or a little this or that, all these things are stored in the body and they inhibit the body. They inhibit the motor system, the nervous system, and their signature is imprinted in our endocrine system.
Yeah, so a lot of the disease is disease in the body. It's unresolved trauma that's stored in your tissues and your muscles, your system.
Hormones are
and that's why it's important for a lot of people to feel and get that out of you, and also use these tools that you did where you were able to, instead of being the victim, it's a freaking traumatic diagnosis. You're going to leave a son behind. You're, told that you're going to die and it's terminal. But then
that environment,
one of your teachers,
that environment,
snap out of it. Pretty much that the healing is within you. You have the ability to heal. And then after that,
went through difficult divorce or the moment
after you integrate it within yourself and healed yourself, it's to give it to others, to be of service.
Traumatize us.
And so this changed your whole perspective on life, health, and healing. And of course, you married it with a little bit of the modern technology, so I can't knock it all, so the hospitals and the Western health is so good to some degree, like where you had a cancer to be able to take it out. If someone breaks their arm, use the modern medicine, and then integrating it with the ancient tools and the ancient things that people have used for millennia in their cultures to heal. And you integrated both of it, and then you immersed yourself in the healing arts, and then you created the Jaguar Path School of Shamanism. What inspired you to create it? Of course, you're healing. You're told to go out and serve. And you also integrate a lot of yoga. You have your own Jaguar yoga that you integrate, not just using just not the postures, but really understanding them and integrating within, the whole yoga, even just teaching the classes. How do you integrate your experiences into the teachings at your school? Yeah, you had a shortened clock. Yeah.
We talked a lot of times about energy and the energy body. And that, for me, was something that was distant and abstract, and I couldn't understand. And when I was down there, I had a bomb on a timer. I was dying. And the kids has told you, and the NH has told you, these are the experts on the planet. So I was counting days. I was counting weeks or whatever it was that I could turn out to be the end of my time. So what I searched in my conversations with the shamans there had nothing to do with any kind of new agey idea or how many petals a chakra has or color. It had to be absolutely practical and real, because what I was facing was real. It wasn't just, I was, yeah, I had a clot. I was dying. So what I've learned and what I teach, and when Don Francisco said teach it in English, it's like I said, well, what I need to put together is like, okay, he's using a rat, he's using a crystal, he's using a cord cutting knife, he's using a ceremony with his mesa and the stones. I can't just teach, hey, here, take a rattle and you will be well. What I learned was the technology and physics behind it. And one of the things that I really learned was that there is no metaphysics. There's mechanisms behind what they do, behind these tools, that actually change your psychology, change your hormonal state. And when you change your hormonal state, when you change these emotions, it's up and above therapy, because, yeah, you've taken care of your anger, but guess what that means? That means that now you have a very healthy liver that's helping you work with the other organs that may be in trouble. So what I brought together in the Jaguar Path 9-month training was the 18 most important tools that I found that through the process really I felt were the ones that really helped me change and evolve, helped me come back on my feet. Those tools that helped me deal with angers in the past, with animosity that I was harboring, with feeling small, with feeling inadequate, and all these things and emotions. I know I'm not the only one have them. These are very human experiences, and what many of us, if not most of us, experience. There's a moment that you had a relationship that left you with animosity or hating the person, and the problem here is that what happens is that when I'm left with all these emotions or childhood trauma, I'm dealing with 10, 20 things. Those are all living inside me. And like you said, they're stored in the tissue. And that means that they're constantly triggering my endocrine system and telling my endocrine system, you're in danger. You should be very angry right now. Your adrenals should be pumping a lot of adrenaline. You should be feeling, that you're in rage. While this is 10 years later, right? After a divorce or after the event happened, we still hold these triggers in. So the body will be in disease. And that disease, that any kind of bitterness that we hold, or anger or fear or not enoughness, that eventually becomes physical. So I brought together 18 tools, and when I say most of these, at least 14 of these are direct from the shamans, but I also included the Ayurvedic principles, which is the Indian way of healing, understanding the constitution of the body and how the body balances out. I brought in the I Ching, which is one of the most ancient books that comes direct from the Taoist of China, and Lao Tzu, maybe your audience, basically revived this amazing book. And also tapping, EFT, emotional freedom technique. So it's just a few tools that are extra that really, at the end, what I realized, that being a yoga teacher also, I would get up and I would practice, and the shamans don't practice yoga, but they would watch me and say, okay, good, keep on doing that. Keep on doing that. I'm like, what do you see? See, and one of the things that I got and changed and create Jaguar Yoga is, first of all, the realization that yoga, Tai Chi, Ayurvedic medicine, even acupuncture, all these are shamanic practices. We have these boxes we put things in, and they're not all exactly correct where they should be put in. So a lot of times I'll tell someone yoga is shamanism, and they take 5 steps back and they don't realize what they're doing is shamanic. And let me just say this in this parenthesis, that shamanism is the most ancient healing that existed on the planet. A shaman, first of all, the word means the knower. Shaman means knower. And it is that man or woman in the village, the region, or a tribe that knows some specific ways of helping to heal. May that be herbs. May that be ways to set a broken bone. May that be ways to help a woman going through difficult labor. May that be ways of sitting down and talking to a troubled teenager, even if this was 1,000 or 2,000 years ago. Shamanism essentially is the most ancient healing that exists, which later on has become what we know as the modern medicine. So when we learn these tools, what we're doing through it is healing different parts of our past. And the whole process of this 9-month training, and it is 9 months because it basically resembles the gestation period where we're reborn. And that was downloaded and given to me from my teachers and my journeys, that this is a whole process of being reborn. What I really came in touch with was my spirituality, and also being able to say this. I come from a religious family. So for me, it was really hard to find the spirituality, to find the sense of God, and to pray or be, if you want, God or spirit. And years later in my training, I had this wonderful man that was in the training. He was in the second month, and he was struggling a little bit. And I'm like, how can I help you, my brother? And he said, well, you have to realize, Ray, that I am a recovering Catholic. And I'm like, I went like this and said, oh my God, this is so awesome. I'm a recovering, not atheist per se, but a religious person. So we're all recovering something until the moment we discover that to be spiritual simply means that I begin to have a personal relationship with spirit. And I realize that I am spirit, that I am the spirit within the body. And that realization, and then absolutely open that conversation with spirit, open that personal conversation with spirit. So these wonderful shamans helped me understand this and come to it, and even helped me build an altar. And if you see the altar in my house now, you will see Christ, you will see Mother Mary. You will also see husband.
Not just in your mind. It's
religion. You will see you will see a jaguar.
It's integrative.
Where is my spirit at? You will see gods and goddesses and saints from all religions, because when we come to shamanism, and I think this is really important to say for your audience and for all of us, because that for me it wasn't clear. Shamanism is not a religion. Shamanism includes and loves and supports all religions. It was only through the shamans that I was able to begin and developed and have a very close relationship with Christ in my life right now. And it's funny, or not, when they see people that are very religious and they say, no, not the shamanism because it's the devil's work or this or that, or sometimes we get some really funny posts on Facebook about the devil's work. It's God's work within beautiful human beings and within every
and you can see that in people, because there's
in essence
seminars and some trainings that I've been in, and you do
in essence
come back and it's a crash. Oh, I'm never going to go back to that way. And then the next week it's crash. But with what you're doing, it's integrative. It's not just entering the mind. It's entering in a cellular level. It's entering on a spiritual level. It's integrative. So you're transformed during these 9 months of this training. And you had mentioned that the main goal of your training is to help people rise above the collective, and training them to get out of the narrator's voice and to question common sense. Can you explain what this means and why it's important for an authentic life?
You have changed. What's up? Did you do something with your hair? People can see it, but they can't place it. And you just smile because these changes are radical changes, and they're all about empowering and centering the person. So you can find your beauty and your shine. And every single person is beautiful. Every single person should be shining outward. And when it's shining, again, it's not a metaphor. Go to yoga and the other great shamans, the yogis. It's called the ojas. It's the life force, chi, that runs through your body. And when you clear out your body and your internal organs and glands are all collaborating in balance, you literally shine out. Right? And you're literally more trusted, more liked, more present. Also, that's such a cool question. Thank you, and I love how you say it. For an authentic life, Exactly. What happens I want to say that the word stepping out of the collective and out of common sense came to me from reading Carl Jung, who I love, the great psychologist Carl Jung, who basically I learned that Carl Jung was the great philosopher and
From their own lenses.
was the one that
perspective.
really offered the opportunity for the whole Western world to open to metaphysics and to this whole other understanding of the psyche and metaphysics itself. Because we were quite lost. Imagine now in the early 1900s, everyone's proper, everyone's pulled up, and it was. Women had their place. Let me not go even back to the Dark Ages. So yeah, he said, looking into the I Ching, he said, this is an amazing tool. The I Ching, again, the great China that is dated back to 7,000 years ago. He said, it brings forth uncommon sense. And I'm just going to say this to that if you look at common sense and the collective consciousness, and we all take a moment, and you, Nancy, and I, and our audience go to the moon, and we just sit in the hill of the moon and look down at the earth. My question to pose is, where has common sense led us to? This so righteous world that everyone knows what's right, and we should do it this way, and we should do it that way, has led us to, let me not be negative here, but so basically we're destroying our planet. We destroy ourselves. So common sense, there's a huge problem with common sense. And the problem with it essentially mirrors into every single one of us, because we create the collective, and the collective creates each one of us. So if I'm taking the collective and I go into Facebook, if I'm trying to understand what is right and what is wrong, and I go to Facebook and Instagram and I go and ask 100 people one way or another, they're going to tell me what people think is right from their own lenses, which is basically very, very narrow. It's very, very narrow, and it's loaded with judgment, and it's loaded, basically, let me say this, it's preloaded. I have a little hard time when I hear the word people are running a program, we're all programmed. I don't know that I like that word, but it works for what it means. And I'm just going to as quickly as possible, do a little parenthesis and go back to the Dark Ages that I just mentioned. Because there's a turn in the history of white people and the Western people that have now.
And this is after witch trials were in
the
United States back then, but this is after all the persecution?
Is that we had
the Dark Ages.
Real huge campaign that cost the life of millions of people. And this campaign was based on the idea of persecution of the feminine, persecution of animals, and persecution of magic. So you have like 400 or 500 years that millions of people are put to the fire or executed or beheaded or like tortured or you name it. If they were
honestly,
both feminine, heading or talking for an animal, or that we're saying that sunset today was magic. And the result of 400 or 500 years of, we're smart, quote unquote.
Everything. We're in life. Yeah.
Well, we can be trained.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been trained to really remain far away from these three. And that was how we created this whole relationship of where women took this place, right? I mean, in 1740, there was an all-church meeting, and I want to say it was in the Vatican. Don't quote me on that. I'll fact-check myself. But I remember 1740, with all the heads of all the churches, from England to Spain, to Rome, to Italy, they all got together and they posed this big question. Do women and do animals have a soul? Should I give a few minutes here? Should I repeat the question? Do women and do animals have a soul? 1740, this is yesterday. Let's get a little historic perspective here. England, the Dark Ages never ended, Nancy. We are a result of that. We're a result of the Dark Ages. That is where our common sense comes from. So I'll just say that in 24 hours, next day, this book came out that animals don't have a soul. And it took more than 30 days, and a lot of heads rolled, and a lot of people lost. It was chaos in the church. After 30 days, they said, "Okay, women have a soul. Don't get me started." So I talk it like this is why I love living here where I live, because you have this history that goes back to Gaia, and Gaia, Mother Earth, and tells us that everything comes from the feminine. Everything comes from from the earth itself, from the womb. And everything is magic. And we are one of the many animals that are a result of it. So we're with it. We're another species of many species that live here. This white thing that happened in the Dark Ages and has come out came with this anthropocentric idea that, hey, this is our planet and we could kill anything we want and we could cut all the trees down we want and we could cement it and we can take the oil and we can make it all like we can become billionaires. Totally, absolutely, totally missing the whole point of what is beautiful about life itself. First, just the moment you're born. So every single second and moment that passes is absolutely magical. So in this, and I need to pause here, or I need to say this really, really important thing is what saved me and why I came out of common sense, why we teach people to let go of the collective, because the collective is driving the planet to its.
It is. It's just.
And it's holding us each back, because when I have a problem and I get angry, then I feel bad because I got angry, and then I feel weak because I felt bad, and then it becomes chaos. Let me pause and say this. When I met Don Francisco, I said, well, where are you from? He says, we are the Q'ero Nation people. The Q'ero Nation people were the shamans, the healers of the Inca royal family, and Inca at the time, early 40s. When they saw the conquistadors coming, these men that we were just talking about, with the swords, they were coming to bring civilization. They said, these people mean the end of us, and we will have nothing to do with this. We will not participate. So the Q'eros took off and went up to the mountains and set up 12 villages from 16 to 18,000 feet and lived there for 500 years undiscovered. Don Francisco told me, when I was 22, I came down to Cusco, and it was the first time I saw a car. It was the first time I saw that there's a switch in electricity. It was the first time I saw running water from the faucet. They still live till recently. Unfortunately, now there's a road that's open, and they have a cell tower up there now too. But they essentially, to the point, is that they lived there for 500 years, not only without the technology, but without that evolution that was the end of a greater civilization, of honoring the goddesses, of honoring animals, opening dialogue with that, and of realizing that everything is magic. Everything is magic. Everything is magic. It's like, that's not fiction. Do I believe in magic? It's like, everything is magic. If you're going at 70,000 miles per hour through this universe, and you don't call that magic, and you talk being grounded and becoming real, that only really refers to becoming small and getting in a box. And I love science, mind you. So, and I think all scientists are shamans. They're the ones like Einstein or Tesla or the German Mike who created called the science that looks into subatomical energy. Right? These people are absolutely shamans because they dare to venture into realms that are unknown.
Mm-hmm. It's a knowing.
With them more knowledge for the rest of us to learn. So I'll just kind of like bring it back to where this started from. I believe that I know that the essence of our training is to understand, to learn, first of all, the tools, how to use it. And the only way to actually learn it the way I did is to have it done on me, so I can actually feel the results. Because I don't care if you tell me you take a rattle or if you take a magic wand, but if I don't feel it, I don't believe it. The first thing I say to everyone is like, become a skeptic. Become a skeptic. And it's a Greek word. Skeptic means be a thinker of your own self. Don't just believe. There's a problem with just believing and giving up the understanding. So what we do is, first of all, you receive the tool. Someone offers you the tool. And let me put it from the beginning. I teach about the tool. I talk about the mechanism of the science behind it. I talk about the practical ways we use maybe the rattle or the crystal or the feathers or the rocks. But then after I've talked about again, the mechanisms behind it, then I will share it. I'll show how it's done. And then the students will pair up and exchange. So in understanding the science of it, then even more importantly, receiving it and coming out 10 minutes later, or 20 minutes later, saying, wow, I know I feel it in my body. I know what I'm feeling, right? And then also offering it to another student and having the other student say, wow, you healed me. There is something that happens there that is unlike any other training, at least from some hundreds of trainings that I've taken and seen, which are all awesome and great. I'm so happy that whole world exists there to help people. But the essence is, again, to understand it, to feel it into your body, and to make it an experience. Because people confuse knowledge with experience. Knowledge is data that you put in your brain. Experience is something that will change your chemistry, that will make you stand taller.
Exactly.
It's it, yeah, knowing. No, that's the word what the shaman means, right? And know. It's awakening, knowing. It's awakening the shaman within you. And then everything changes. And I really believe in that. And that's what we put a lot of effort into. And we have great, amazing results, all hands up. Again, all our graduates, we love them and they love us. We create this international community throughout many countries now, more than 10 countries. And one of the most common things heard is that every time we meet, someone says, like, I'm so happy I'm here because this is the place I can be myself. So, and that's what it's all about. Because most of the disease that we have, most of the problems that people face is they're trying to be someone else. Even the people that go down the metaphysics or the spiritual path, many times they try to be like the shaman, or they try to be like the guru, and it's not about that. And that's what I say in minute one of the training. I don't have any more power than you have. What I'm sharing with you is on common sense, and just receive it and feel it for yourself. Feel what that, and that empowerment, comes. You let go slowly that I'm not enough. I don't have enough money. I'm not tall enough. I'm not good enough. All this thing that again, lack of spirit and common sense has brought along. This antagonism or not feeling enough. All that begins to dissolve, and you come into a place. And I asked Francisco one time, I said, what is a shaman? And he said, shaman is a very simple man or woman that is connected to spirit and is never alone. When you discover that you're never alone, I think that is just one of the most important things. And it's a belief system. It's not a religion. It's a sensation. And like what I say, like what switched for me in my years with these amazing, beautiful people is that I was living life in reference to different things. I was in reference to the other photographers and advertisement agencies. I was driving my car in reference to what other people were driving, reference to my family and how I related in family moments. I do not live in reference to anything anymore. Now I live in reverence. Reverence has become fused with my mundane everyday life. There is nowhere you can go that God is not. I don't care if it's a moment where you're having a conversation with a clerk at the supermarket, or the bank, or the gas station. The divine is present. And when you begin to live a life from that place, everything is different. Everything is different. And again, I'll say this, because I had read all those books of Carlos Castaneda, who referred to Don Juan Matus as this magical, super human being. When I went into the jungle and into the mountains, I was expecting to find these super human beings. Like they have these, unreal powers. And I'll tell you what I discovered that scene. I discovered that their superpower was affection. And in one of my travels, when I was flying down back to Peru again, 4th, 5th year, I said, I'm going to discover what's the most potent healing energy and tool that exists. And in my mind, I also had Christ. What did Christ use? How did he do these amazing miracles? How did he perform these healings? And I went there, and again, I was thinking that I'm going to find something lightning and light or some kind of, and what I came out with was something much bigger and something I wasn't looking for. The most important frequency healing that exists on the planet is the frequency of affection. And you see Harvard Medical and NIH studies where you see people with similar situations, similar surgeries, that post-surgery and post-medicine, the ones that have people next to them, the ones that have family to support them, are the ones, 100% in all the studies, that have 80% more chances of surviving. And the ones that are alone don't make it. And that affection is right there. And that affection, for me, is we have 3 pillars in creating the Jaguar Path, in the ambience you will find in our virtual school when we're on Zoom and training. And that is acceptance for who you are right now, admiration for who you are right now, and affection. And I have found, and I have realized that this acceptance that Francisco has, this real man molded from the Andes, being an unreal and not in touch with reality, advertising photographer, he had absolute acceptance of who I was. And not only that, he showed me admiration immediately. And he through and through held me with affection. And these are 3 important elements in an environment that are absolutely necessary for each one of us to feel safe to actually make the changes that we need to make. And if one is missing, it's really hard because we're afraid.
Whole different energy.
We live in a very hostile society. The West is quite hard and hostile. We say we're kind, we say, different things, but, look up. People are alone. When you go to get a job or start a job, you have all this antagonism and other people. When you go to open your own business, it's cutthroat. It's really difficult. One's accepting you, admiring you, and showing you affection. So these are the 3 things that come back once we come back with the feminine to the animals. It's magic. And I'll say that this is the thing that didn't change in these people, the Keros, because they didn't experience the witch. They didn't experience the massacre. And they remained there every morning, waking up, giving thanks to Mother Earth. Every bite that you take, you give another one back to Mother Earth. Every sip of water you take, you give back to Mother Earth. And they created what is called, as an essence of living, the idea was called Aini. And Aini, which is a Quechua word, means reciprocity. And the idea behind it says this: if I water a tree, if I willingly say, here, tree, I'm going to water you, I will willingly offer you something. It will give me back.
I've never heard that.
To build a house. Wood to...
That is huge. And that's like my last question.
Shade.
I mean, I usually save this for the last question. You said you needed to get out at 12:45, right? We passed it.
Swing and have my young child swinging.
Okay, great. I'll just add, there's so many.
Hide and seek. It will skip.
Yeah, we'll start wrapping this up. Okay, so that leads to usually what is my last question. Well, first, I'd like to lead into the last question, and then I'm going to ask how people can find and work with you. So we were talking about an open heart, and since it's the Awakened Heart podcast, I always ask, what does it mean for you to live with an awakened heart? And you're telling us what an awakened heart does. If you could just, so that is one of the things it is. What does it mean for you to live with an awakened heart?
What can I offer? And it is amazing what happens. So you say, what can I offer? And you're just flooded with things that come back. It's a millisecond. The moment you step in offering, you receive 100-fold, 1,000-fold. And it's just a whole different way of being. And it all comes back, of course, to how you are physically. If you are with an open heart, and this is again where we talk a lot about in the Jaguar Path, in the training, what is not metaphorical. An open heart is not a metaphorical statement. While it is for us in the West in the songs, what they're really all saying is truly widening your collarbones, stepping forward, rather than shrugging your shoulders and pulling back. Because when we do that, there's something that happens in their physicality. When we slouch our shoulders and pull back, we bring all the electricity, more of the electricity of the body, to the adrenals. And that automatically sends a signal to the amygdala, and I am in fight or flight. Through yoga, through Tai Chi, through these practices, through being accepted, admired, and in this ambience of affection, you can have the courage to open up and step forward. And what happens when you step forward and you actually widen your collarbones and lift your rib cage, the electricity now comes to the prefrontal cortex, which is the most evolved brain, where love lives, empathy, compassion, imagination, and intuition, and the ability to work with others. That's huge. That's everything. An awakened and open heart changes everything in the way you view the world.
Thank you.
In the Western world, we become obsessed with the brain, and we think, literally, that we view and understand the world from this one organ called the brain, one organ. The truth is that the brain, I love it, and I love words, and I love what it does, is not the leading organ that helps us interact with life. The heart as an organ is the main, and that's why it's in the center. That's why it's in the rib cage protected, is the main way we view life. So Harvard Medical came out in 2005 with this study that they named HRV, heart rate variability. They discovered, and we now know in nanoseconds, counting the time from one heartbeat to the other, that our heartbeats are different. The space between is different. So in other words, there's different music in the heart. Imagine the heart as a drum. It changes its beat. And the heart changes its beat the moment it walks into a room, the moment it walks into an office, the moment it walks out to nature. Wherever you go, it changes because it reads the environment.
That's beautiful.
And the HRV...
That's beautiful. That's a lot of that I know. I knew about the Institute and the brain coherence, but I know we got to wrap up really soon. Let me, can you share with us how people can find you? I know you have this 9-month training coming up, and where's the best way to work with you, and what are your future goals for Jaguar Path School, and how do you hope to keep continuing helping people with your teaching? It's going to be quickly 2 minutes.
To a room and someone comes near you. You say, well, this person feels really friendly, and you feel relaxed. Or you can say, this person feels really dangerous. That thought that you have is information that came from your heart. It didn't come and say, well, this person is wearing black, so he could be dangerous, white, and he might be kind and happy. It came directly from your heart. And there's a series of experiments that, again, Harvard Medical has done, and it's wonderful for anyone to look it up, Harvard Medical heart rate variability, where you could see that when the person that has higher HRV walks into the room, everyone else in the room tries to match the heart rate variability, just to raise it. So to answer the question, what does it mean to live with an open heart? Thank you for having this podcast, because this is what it's really all about. The technology says, if I close my heart down, I'm going to turn on my adrenals. And from living in the front, this third eye, they call it, or the beautiful shining forehead, then I'll go back to the amygdala. If I bring the energy into my heart, then my pituitary and pineal gland are activated. And the pineal gland is what gives Christ his halo, what gives Buddha the pine cone hairdo. that we see everywhere. You see where the pine hair do it, yes.
Got a lot of things coming up. I'm going to make sure I put this podcast out well before these retreats start happening in November. So, well, Ray, I know you got to jump off. I appreciate all your time. I mean, we could go on for hours and hours about so many different things. Thank you so much for your beautiful presence. And I can't wait for people to find you and work with you and join some of your retreats. Thank you.
And when we walk with an open heart,
you too. All right. Bye-bye.
We see different things in life. Because when we're walking around, we just don't see what's around us. There's too many things. When we're walking around, we're seeing what's inside us. That catches our eye. So an open heart catches the beauty. It catches all the other beautiful souls that are walking around. Absolutely, not a problem. You can find us at the Jaguar Path, thejaguarpath.com. Our 9-month training begins this November. It's 9 months. We meet 1 weekend a month. Our first weekend is November 16th, 17th. And we end at June. And that's one thing you can look into. It's on Zoom live. We are broadcasting it from Greece, from the temple of Hippocrates, literally. But the also other thing that is coming up that you may be interested in is my beloved teachers insist, 3 of them, Don Francisco, along with his wife, Donna Juana, and my beloved other teacher, Don Wilbert, they are coming to Greece to bless our house and to lead a retreat November 23rd to 30th. November 23rd to 30th in Greece. We will be outside of Athens in Epidavros. We'll see 3 amazing different archaeological sites that are all lined up with healing. And we will learn shamanic tools, and we will also celebrate Thanksgiving. We will offer an aini, despacho aini, that great word I shared, in aini, giving thanks to Mother Earth for all the gifts we have received. So November 23rd to 30th here in Greece. But basically, you can find all the information and everything else we do, from workshops, even several free masterclasses coming up at thejaguarpath.com. Nancy, thank you so much for this opportunity. You have a wonderful day. Thank you.